Our next speaker is a founding partner at World Fund, one of Europe's leading climate-focused venture capital funds. She's an expert advisor to the European Commission and maintains a close relationship with international industry thought leaders as co-founder of the think tank IE9 Den Fabric. Sorry, I probably mangled that. Here to define what climate investing actually is and how to most effectively deploy capital for optimal impact, please welcome Daria Sarahova.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic time. So am I. But I have to say, it's always a challenge to be the first one after the lunch. And it's also quite cold in here, right? So I decided before we go and talk about how to fund the green transition, we do a little exercise together. So please stand up. By the way, it's totally improvised, so I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to figure it out together. So we start with a little bit of a march. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we clap. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we channel some hip hop. And right, and left, and left, and right. Again, we march. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we clap now. And we clap now. Some hip hop, some hip hop. Yeah, that's good. Good, thank you. Now I feel a little bit warmer. It's a warm topic. I'm Daria. I'm one of the founding partners and managing directors of World Fund. We are one of the leading climate tech investors in Europe. We invest in decarbonization technology. We do so by using a scientific methodology which allows us to identify the highest emitting industries and also the solution to those. So by design, we invest in food and agriculture on the one side, and then on the other side in buildings, built environment, energy tech, industry, transportation. I myself am, for 20 years, a part of the tech ecosystem. I've been an entrepreneur myself, investment banker, entrepreneur again, and since 2009, I've become a venture capitalist. And you can see that in my heart, I love dancing. So today we're going to talk about how to finance the green transition. And as a venture capitalist, I love numbers. Well, I actually love big numbers. And I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you today. We start now. They are 19.6 trillion euros in Europe as assets under management. By the way, when I talk about Europe today, I include United Kingdom. So for the sake of my presentation, UK is a part of European Union today. 19.6 trillion under management. 19.6 billion were invested in 2022. Sounds like a lot, right? Let me show you the next picture. It's basically nothing. In order to achieve the net zero goals we aim to achieve by 2030, we have to invest at least 1 trillion per annum, so yearly. And if this number sounds like a big number to you, let me show you the picture. It is not. These are only 50 dots more to add to the overall capital available. We're not including new capital raised on the institutional market. We're not yet there. And today, again, I'm going to talk about a lot of numbers, but I want you to remember 3. And this is the first one. In order to achieve the net zero economy by 2030, we have to increase the amount of capital invested by 590%. 590%. It's a big number. Let it sink. The good news is that in Europe, we are very good on creating technology we so desperately need to address the climate crisis. 28% of all patent applications in this space are filed in Europe. And look at China, only 8, right? So almost 1/3 of all patents, all R&D created in the space of climate technology is created here. This is the second number to remember for you. But what are those climate tech technologies I'm talking about? Let's have a look at some examples which were very prominent in a couple of the last years. You know this one, right? The rise of e-scooters began 2019 and continued until even now. There is a lot of allocation into mobility, but if you look at the impact of an e-scooter to the decarbonization, it's actually negative. There is a study conducted by ETH Zurich which concludes that based on the numbers from the last years. So this is not climate tech. I'm not sure if it's the right color in UK, but this is the one we have in Germany. The delivery services. It's very easy to, just be on your couch and order your, whatever you want, your groceries. But just because the courier is on the e-bike doesn't save the planet. Now you're probably thinking, okay, first she danced with us, and now she's showing us a pizza. How is that climate tech? Exactly the same question I asked when a fellow investor sent me a deck for a fundraise for a pizza, a sustainable pizza, last year. And I said, how is that sustainable? And he said, well, it's super healthy. It has new healthy ingredients. It's like, and how does that fit into our investment thesis? And then he replied to me saying, don't you take it too seriously? And we do take it seriously. And unfortunately, there is still a huge misalignment between emissions and venture capital. You see on the right side, the 48% invested into mobility are mostly driven by the investments into e-scooters. And mobility only accounts for 15% of the emissions. If you look on the other hand side, what are the most emitting industries? That would be the industry, industrial manufacturing, food and agriculture, land use, and also built environment. And they're heavily, heavily underfunded. Before we continue, I want to engage you once more. Let's talk about what do you think is the core driver for decarbonization? Is it technology? We are talking about here at the technology conference. But maybe it's us, it's our behavior. It's, it's going vegan, it's flying less. Let's do a little exercise again. So raise your hand who thinks it's technology. Very little, okay. Raise your hand if you think it's us. More, interesting. So good news for everybody who already booked their Christmas trips this year and feel bad about it. Behavioral changes is only 4%. Technology is significant. And again, good news is that almost 50% of tech we need to achieve the goals of net zero is already there. We have to scale, we have to invest, but it's there. On the other hand, 46% is yet to be developed. And this is this technology we desperately need to actually think beyond 2030, about towards 2050. And for this technology, we desperately need venture capital. But if you look across different asset allocations, you'll see this picture. Well, R&D, kind of in the R&D space, 35% are invested into the climate tech space. It's kind of is aligned with 1/3 of European R&D being filed here. Private equity, I was really surprised to see that. They're so late to the party, but then yet 37% is allocated to climate tech. And if you look at venture capital, it's just 13%. And there are several reasons why is it like this. There's historical structural inefficiency we experience in Europe talking about venture capital. There is lack of kind of willingness to invest in capex. There is lack of kind of scientific engineering skills on the teams on average. But also one of the reasons is that kind of a lot of investors burn their fingers while investing in the clean tech 1.0, we call it. Like the time between 2008 and 2013, where a lot of capital was deployed and a lot of, let's say, a lot of loss was made. This is the common understanding. More good news today, and the third number I would like you to remember is that in the last years, the combined gross IRR, so the return on your investment in both venture capital and private equity asset class, accounted for almost 22%. So if you invest £100, you'll get annually 22 back. It's quite a good number. And of course, if you look, the past, it's crap, right? But it's getting there. So 3 numbers are, again, there is a funding gap in Europe. We need to increase our investments by at least 590%. We're great in creating technology. Almost 30% of all patents are filed in Europe. And performance is great. 22% IRR is a very strong IRR. So how do we pick up the right investment areas? If it's not an e-scooter, not a pizza. By the way, I love pizza. That was nothing against pizza. But how do we actually identify those? At World Fund, as I already said in the beginning, we use a scientific method to identify startups which can decarbonize the whole industries. And I'm going to tell you about this method a little bit. We created it ourselves. And the reason why we created it ourselves, there is a story to that, and maybe let me start with the story. So we're at a conference called Wired Impact, and I'm going to tell you that I really don't like the word impact. I actually don't like it as much that I forbid everybody to use it, and in our team, anyone who says impact has to pay me a beer. I used to drink a lot. No, I'm kidding. But why don't I like this word? The reason for that is that in the financial industry, in the VC community, when you used to talk about impact, that kind of equaled no returns. So there is a very strong connotation for not being successful while investing in impact. So we had to come up with something more juicy, more positive. And this is how the climate performance potential was created. Performance, positive, good performance, potential, everything very, very happy. And then we said, okay, so we're not talking about impact, we're talking about the CPP, the climate performance potential. Let's check it out before we create something ourselves. What's out there? What is in the venture capital market? What methodology you can use as a venture capitalist in order to actually measure the impact? And very quickly we found out that there is actually nothing, that there is no standard methodology how to look at the measurement of decarbonization for early stage startups. So when we started, it says very much from the bottom, there was a Notion node, kind of gathered some thoughts. And today, almost 3 years ago, I'm very proud to say that the climate performance potential, CPP, is now an official term used in the scientific community. Just a couple of weeks back, Technical University of Berlin published a peer-reviewed article in a scientific journal using our methodology. So we're very proud of that, and it's been quite a journey. But what that is the CPP, right? So the methodology allows us to measure the overall kind of carbon market as a potential for a technology. We do so in looking what are the adoption rates of technology, technology X compared to other technologies' adoption rates by the time of 2040. We also look at what else is happening in the market, what are the external factors playing into that, and we only invest if there are several hundred megatons